third question is actually about power. There's a lot of talk about G13. I think the spectre of general elections is in the air throughout the country. So the question is, regardless of which parties would be in power, a more fundamental issue, especially from the role that faith traditions can play, is how power is exercised, right? The way that faith traditions should hold such power accountable. I would like to quote a recent comment written by a British political philosopher, Simon Critchley. He says that power is the ability to get things done. Politics is the means to get those things done. Democracy is the name for regimes that believe that power and politics coincide and that power lies with the people. The problem is that power and politics have become divorced. What we call democracy today has become a sham. What is your take on faith, politics and democracy in our Malaysian context? Brother Surendran.
Thank you. Before I go on that, I just want to explain something here. When you talk about faith, I said faith's a good thing. It can root you in the good things. But that is, of course, with the obvious caveat that faith is not misunderstood, misapplied, and abused. Wrong understanding is the problem that we are facing in the world today. I'll give you a very good example, which is probably also relevant, I think, to this question about faith and politics and democracy. You may all have heard of the recent case involving Hamza Kashgari, a Saudi Arabian youth who was deported from our country to face possible execution in Saudi Arabia. This happened about a month ago. Now, when that happened, some of us took up that case, including myself and Fadia and those lawyers who were sitting there. And immediately we were attacked. We were attacked because what we said was that he must be given a chance to have his say, that the Malaysian government is wrong in illegally deporting him out of the country, hush, rushing him to the airport and shanghaiing him out of the country, even though we were trying to get a court order at that point of time. Now, immediately there were people who were attacking us on Twitter, which is fine. Twitter is a forum for discussion, that's perfectly fine. But here's a very interesting exchange that I had with one gentleman on Twitter during that time. Because I had spoken up for Hamza, because I said he should have a right to have a say, because I said he was presumed innocent until proven guilty, this gentleman tagged me and he said, I'll read it in Malay first. He said, "Jangan campur hal agama Islam." He says, in other words, do not intervene in matters involving Islam. So I replied to him. I said, "Ini hal nyawa, semua manusia saudara saya." I said, this is a question of human life. Every human being is my brother. That was what I said. Now he then replied. He said, "Memang hal nyawa manusia, tetapi ini manusia Islam." Okay? He said, in other words, I agree this involves human life, but this is a Muslim human. And so that was the comeback. Now, I was baffled, as you must be, by that answer. Why does this gentleman put up barriers between man and man? Why does he not see a suffering fellow man as exactly that? And does not faith teach us pity, mercy, and such things, compassion, in order to ameliorate the rigors of any possible religious law? But the gentleman didn't see it, and he's not the only one. There were plenty of other chaps. Of course, some of them were doing it for pure politics, taking a whack at me because I'm from the opposition. But there were many others who, like this gentleman, I think, who really felt that if it is an issue involving a Muslim man and his religion, no one can comment on it. even if he is oppressed, done to death, no one can say anything about it. And you've seen this attitude in other ways also. For example, it seems it's okay for me to comment and criticize, let us say, Israel for oppressing the Palestinians who are Muslims. But it is not okay for me to speak out if it is a Muslim regime that is oppressing a Muslim person. Then I cannot speak out, because I would be then intervening in an affair that involves Muslims. But it is okay for me to criticize Israel, because if Israel is oppressing Muslim people. So there, I don't see the justice in that. Anyway, the point that I was trying to make is that there's no doubt at all, I agree, that there's a real problem with the way faith is interpreted. But let me come back to the question. Religion, power, politics, democracy, that's really a fraught question. What we see, the way politics is practiced in this country, for example, or in many countries, is that there is always a Machiavellian tinge to it. Politics is about grabbing power. And in the rush to grab power, people forget a lot of things. People forget a lot of things that really matter. And that is why people have a rather jaundiced view of politicians and politics. But a politician who is rooted in faith, who keeps in mind that which faith teaches, or if he is faithless, if he does not adhere to any faith, a politician who believes in the religion of humanity, a politician who believes in mercy and compassion and the goodness of man, and that it is his job to ensure that he creates the kind of country in which the needs of every person is taken care of, where there's no oppression, there's no cruelty, where there's economic justice, where the state intervenes to make sure that the poor are taken care of, to make sure that the rich do not become monopolizers, to make sure that there is no corruption. If a politician who focuses on that, if he is rooted in ideas of his faith or in the basic idea of human decency, well then you would have a much better nation and a much better world. We need more politicians like that. I'm not saying I'm one of those, but that's the kind of politician that I aim to be in an ideal world. But that was really a tough question, I must say. Trying to link faith with politics, really tough, because nobody's going to buy it. Well, as I said, if we can do that, it would be amazing. Thanks.
Thank you. We have Mr. Lee.
You know, I would rather say spiritual rather than faith, because faith implies religious, whereas spiritual, a person spiritual may not have religion, but they have other values. So looking, of course, if a person has faith, so much is better. But the point I'm going to make is the question of spirituality, where those qualities reside in a person of generosity, loyalty, understanding, love, compassion, and so on. All these wonderful God-given qualities. That's why he said that man is made in the image of God. Now, we have again to look at the question of power. Perhaps maybe we have to define power in a different way. Not the power of dominance, of authority, but rather the power of unity, the power to serve, the power to care. Those powers will have greater powers than the power of those, what do you call those temporal power. Because temporal power implies you are dominating, whereas the power to serve, that the best of men, the best of leaders is the person who serves, and serve with loyalty, with faithfulness, with sincerity, and all those qualities. So when I talk about spirituality, with that in mind, combined with the understanding that it is for the betterment of the people that they serve. The question now is democracy. Today, we have seen all those theocracy, aristocracy, whatever this is all gone, even communism. And today, democracy is going to undergo a change. We know that in many countries where you have a person, a candidate, a president candidate who's just lost by 40.9% in that sense, or 49.5%, where the guy may have got 50.1%, became the president, and we get so much of upset and so much of protest and so forth. But is it what's all about? Is it the question of power, that they want to become the president or to be in party? But rather, we should look at democracy in a sense of not adversarial, not in debate, but using the context of consultation, where we can best arrive at any truth of the reality through consultation, not through negotiation, not through debate, and not through this kind of confrontation, but rather, after all, whatever it is, the basis is that you serve the people. You may have differences of opinion, yeah, it is, but if we can come together at a table where we consult, where your ideas have been thrown to the table, the ideas no longer is yours, but the group, and it is the propriety of the group, and that's where through this consultation, further with more inputs, you can arrive at a decision which is the best interest of all. So there is no such thing as my interest or it is my idea and so forth, but it is the product of the group. So democracy again will change in that sense. You have that, how we have that, and I'm sure, for example, like in United Nations, so we have got this Security Council, and there are a lot of comments that have been made, even proposition made to change the entire situation whereby it is more consultative and more broadly based rather than confined to those powerful things. And I'm sure that these are some of the things which have to go on in our process that we have that. Again, democracy means to say that, you know, look, it is not the powers to be to say this is good for you and this is bad for you, but rather at the grassroots, I can, with all those friends together, consult and see what is best for that community or that neighborhood. Not what I perceive from outside without any out of the reality and say this is good for you. It is not. And these are some of the aspects of this kind of democracy we are looking at. And of course, it will change as we go along. And I know it's not easy because many of us will have less interest, be it political parties, be it NGOs, be it civil society, where you look at only one aspect of my perspective rather from the perspective